Hey everybody, Tim here with today's episode of Star Trek Voyager, Season 6, Episode 10, Pathfinder. I loved this episode. This is probably one of my favorite Voyager episodes. And so this episode is the last Star Trek episode to air in the 90s. After this, we go into the year 2000. And so Insurrection came out in 1998. So this is actually the first time we've seen any of the Next Generation crew since then. So that's really interesting. Most of this episode takes place or kind of revolves around Reginald Barclay, who is one of my favorite characters. He was in 6 episodes of The Next Generation, and he's in 7 episodes of Voyager, which is kind of funny because most people think of Dwight Schultz's character from The Next Generation more. He's one of my favorite characters. I relate to Barclay so much, and I think he's such a great and underused character. I kind of wish Dwight Schultz had signed up to be more of a regular than just a guest star appearance. So, like I said, Barclay's in this episode, and Deanna Troi is in this episode, which is kind of interesting after seeing her and Riker get back together after Insurrection. And they bring up the Enterprise, they bring up Geordi, they bring up Data and his cat Spot, because at one point Barclay has a cat now named Neelix, and so they're like, oh, you should get Neelix and Spot together. And so just all sorts of stuff's going on in this episode, and it was really interesting. They even bring up Deep Space Nine has a little bit of a mention in there about getting some information. So most of this episode is just about Barclay being his usual self and how this wave is coming towards us and he wants to use it to send a message to Voyager. And they kind of have a rough area on where Voyager will be at. But at the time, everybody just keeps telling him no. And I mean, you feel bad for Barclay. Every time he comes up with a suggestion, it doesn't work. And Barclay, being the character he is not that great at voicing what he's trying to do, which, I mean, that's a thing. And you can see other people trying to help him, but it's just not quite working. So once again, he retreats into his holo programs, which we saw in The Next Generation, where he had a holo addiction. And he has this whole Voyager program where you can tell that he has some facts, but not everything. Janeway still has the really long hair in the bun. All of the Maquis crew are still wearing those uniforms because he doesn't know that they're part of Starfleet, or at least in the Starfleet uniforms, stuff like that. Paris, he didn't know, was demoted, so he still has his lieutenant ranking, and just stuff like that. Anyways, Admiral Paris, Tom's father, ends up coming on board for the Pathfinder, and Barclay ends up opening his mouth when he's not supposed to, and basically ends up getting in trouble and is like, hey, I have a way to contact Voyager, and he ends up getting in trouble because he wasn't supposed to say anything, and they bring up the holo addiction and all sorts of stuff. And Barclay finally basically throws everything to the wind and breaks in to this system to try to contact Voyager, and his commander shows up and he's starting to get arrested, and then at the very last second, Voyager actually does start responding. And it's a kind of a great moment where you see Janeway and Barclay talking. And I mean, after five and a half years, basically, this is the first time we've really, in a live rate, talked to the Alpha Quadrant. We've had a few brief messages and stuff, but this is the first time we've really communicated. And people finally start appreciating Barclay because they're like, hey, you were right. You knew what you were talking about. And then when seeing Admiral Paris talk to Tom was kind of a heartbreaking scene as well. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought this was a really great one. Kind of tying in the Next Generation crew and Voyager and Deep Space Nine. Everybody kind of gets a little bit of a show in this one. For those who have seen this one, what did you guys think? How did you guys relate to Barclay? What did you guys think about Dwight Schultz appearing? Like I said, I really enjoy his character. I think he's a great character. Serving under Picard was great, and then I don't know, just everything about his character really stands out to me. So for those who have seen it, what did you guys think? Thank you guys for everything, and I will see you guys next time for Fairhaven.